Hi, I'm Bill Donohue, President of the Catholic League. Joining me today is Sean Leigh. He's a policy analyst, and Mike McDonald, Director of Communications. We won't hold you for too long. Just want to talk about something which is in the New York Post today. There's a story about Mayor Mamdani wanting to get rid of the name Ed Koch Bridge from what New Yorkers would call the 59th Street Bridge or the Queensborough Bridge. He says he didn't do enough about AIDS. So I'm going to talk to the guys here, let them kind of question me, maybe a little devil's advocate, have some fun with this.
Yeah, so Bill, just going off of that point, doesn't Mamdani quite kind of have a bit of a point about this? The 1980s was a while ago. I don't think that's really fresh in everyone's mind what Ed Koch did, and the AIDS epidemic was at its height when he was mayor. Doesn't Mamdani kind of say like New York was kind of ground zero in San Francisco?
Yeah, it was. Now, we didn't know anything about AIDS until 1981, and at that point, people began to tap their brakes, at least to some extent. The question is, where did we get AIDS? One of the great transmission facilities was the bathhouse. Now, Ed Koch didn't say it's good to go to the bathhouse. He said to close them down. And people resisted. Now, if that's what you want. If you want to get a disease, you would go to the bathhouse. That's what exactly happened. They practiced promiscuous anal sex in the bathhouse, which was a direct link between a cause and effect with AIDS. People know that. I've well documented in my book, The New Freedom, Individualism and Collectivism in the Social Lives of Americans. It's very well documented. What Koch was saying is that few of you would die if you just simply practiced a modicum of restraint, but they wouldn't listen to him.
Bill, you've mentioned you were close with Mayor Koch. This bridge has been named after him, I believe, for the last 15 years. He's been widely regarded as one of the best mayors in the city's history. You pretty clearly outline how the rise of the AIDS crisis kind of started in New York and spread. If this bridge has been around and spread and named after him for so long, and he's been respected for so long, why is he now all of a sudden getting called out by the current New York City mayor?
I don't know whether it's because Mamdani doesn't like Jews. That's part of it. We're in the beginning of Gay Month. I guess they want to celebrate this. I was very close to Ed Koch. You're right. I was a good friend of his. He was a great friend developing Catholic-Jewish relationships. He was very close to Cardinal O'Connor, and I loved him as well. So in one sense, I feel this personal because an attack on Ed Koch, I think, is unjust, especially coming from these people here. Look, I remember the studies that were done. Who are the people who are the most resistant in the gay community to closing the bathhouses? Well-educated people and the people who are the patrons of the bathhouses. Well, the latter is understandable. If that's your idea of leisure, then of course, you're going to maintain that you have to go ahead and do this. Although there's a suicidal element here. Why would you continue to go to a facility where there was a cesspool of infection? Those words were Randy Schultz, who was gay and died of AIDS, by the way. He was a San Francisco reporter. But the other one is the well-educated people. Why would well-educated people, as opposed to modestly educated people, want to keep the bathhouses open? Because they didn't believe that it was really true. Michael Foucault, the French intellectual in the 1980s, they said he was the greatest intellectual in the world. He went to bathhouses all over Europe, certainly New York, San Francisco. He died of what he regarded as a, quote, social construct. He'd think that AIDS was not a real disease. And the well-educated people, it's hard for people today in 2026 to understand this. But back in the 1980s, I'm talking about after AIDS was discovered in 1981, they would not believe it. The well-educated people said this was a conspiracy. They're just trying to make up some boogeyman to scare gay people. And so it's just a social construct, made up idea. Well, all these people died of a social construct. Of course, it's not a social construct. It's an actual lethal disease. And when you practice lethal sex acts promiscuously, it does have that kind of result. That kind of gay liberation leads right to the morgue, by the way. It doesn't lead to freedom.
No, it doesn't. And Bill, just one last quick question. You make a really good point in your article you have up on our website, catholicleague.org. We'll have a link in the description below. But you made this one really salient point that there's a lot of passing the buck. People made certain choices, and that led to certain outcomes. And that seems to be more prevalent in society today, not just in the talk about AIDS, but more broadly. Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing. There are exceptions, of course. We had a war on smokers, except now it's back as long as it's marijuana. Okay? We had a respiratory disease not too long ago called COVID. They said you have to be careful about your lungs. but now they say marijuana is good somehow. I guess that doesn't affect your lungs. Yeah, there's selective indignation here, Mike. There's a lack of accountability, but this is particularly true in the gay community here in June. By the way, if somebody says, "Well, this sounds anti-gay," is Larry Kramer anti-gay? He was the leader of the gay community. Guess what he said? Gays did it to themselves in the 1960s and 1970s. I have that quoted in my book as well. He understood that the bathhouse was the great facility, the great transmitter of AIDS, which killed his own people. So I'm not making up things. I got this from gay writers like Andy Schultz, gay activists like Larry Kramer. I didn't make it up. It's there. People need to wake up. You know, if you put your hand on a hot stove, don't be blaming the stove because you got burnt. You know, if you practice lethal sex, if you're heavy into gambling, heavy into drugs, heavy into alcohol, you eat too much, guess what happens, people? The body rejects it because you can't beat nature and you can't beat nature's God. I hope people would figure it out.